Today, we went in, we got a little work done at the stadium, and Paul, Jonathan, Nick, and Jeremy all took reps, and it was a good day. Right now, it all looks pretty much the same. You know, we're running the same plays with all three of the guys that we're still rotating in there. And, each one of those three guys probably does things a little bit different, though I would say. You know, right now, I don't think there's any part of the offense that we could or could not run with either Jeremy or Nick over the other. I think they both could do the same. Could fulfill the same role for us as far as running offense. For the most part, all the guys have done a pretty good job. Nick's done well. You know, I think he's been very conscious of it. You know, we only had him live for that one scrimmage. I don't think we had any turnover issues there with him. And then, of course, in the other scrimmages and team situations, you got the orange jersey on, so you're not being hit as much. But we haven't done a lot of interceptions either, which is good. I don't know yet. I would think it'd be good that he's an older guy. When you come from junior college, he's played in this league 3 years, so he understands that. And then you're also 2 years older than your average young man coming out of high school. So there's just from natural maturity level that should exist. And while junior college is not the SEC, it's maybe a step up from speed from a lot of high schools. So having a year in that can hurt. Well, really, we still got 3 guys we're looking at. We feel very confident. We know what Jonathan can do at this point from the spring and from the first 2 weeks of fall camp. And so we were honest with him and those guys that, you know, we're going to let 2 new guys who don't have the same amount of reps. They don't have as many, and we haven't been able to evaluate them as much. We want to let them get more of the reps this week instead of splitting it 3, or as we were doing 4 ways. And I think it just always goes back to who's going to earn the respect of their teammates, and who's the team believer, who's the offense believer, who's going to protect the ball, and who do we feel like we can trust that even if it's a simple game plan or a big game plan, that they're going to be able to execute what we ask them to do and play with it. We don't have a day, but you know, the quicker you can decide, then the quicker you can move on to preparing for your opponent, and you can prepare for maybe getting that continuity together. And you know, we feel like we had 4 for a good while. We're now at 3. And I'll say this, guys, about Kyle Frazier. I mean, you talk about a young man who loves Auburn. I don't know if I've ever been more proud of a young person I've coached, man, with Kyle right now. Because, you know, when you look at it, the quarterback position, I tell those guys all the time, I mean, it's unfair, but it's reality. When you win, you get way too much credit. And when you lose, you get way too much blame. He went through some stuff that not a lot of people go through. And I couldn't be more proud of last spring, especially this summer and fall camp, the way he responded to those scenarios. And then at the end of the day, he just came to us and said, hey, I want to help this team win. He said it was more important to him that Auburn get back to where he wants Auburn to be when he came here. And, you know, I think that was a pretty selfless act. But I want to make sure I said that. But, you know, when you get to 3 guys and 2 guys, you start to kind of narrow down those reps. And it's not just at quarterback, it's at every position. Well, I think anytime you play a guy that is either a true freshman or a guy that doesn't have any of that experience, you're always going to be a little anxious, I'll say, to see how they respond. Because it's one thing to do it in a live scrimmage situation that's controlled, or in a practice where they got an orange jersey on, and you put 90,000 people in the stands. How are they going to respond? Because good things are going to happen and bad things are going to happen. And so that's one thing you're also looking for, you know, when you decide who am I going to go with. It's who do I think that when it's really good, they're going to be the same. And when things get really tough, they're going to be even keeled and not going to be rattled. And I think a lot of it, our job is to put someone in there that's ready. I mean, in fairness to whoever that becomes, you know, we got to feel like we're doing right by them, and that we feel like they're ready to handle very well. And you know, early on for Nick and Jeremy, that's half the battle. Jonathan and Kyle have been used to it from the spring and from the summer. That's half the battle, getting used to the way we do things at that tempo. So not only are you asking them to learn a new system and learn reads, but you're asking them to do it at warp speed. But they picked it up well. As a matter of fact, I'd say the last 5 or 6 practices, 7 practices, I don't think we've had issues with communication or anything like that or tempo. You'd have to go way back for me to even remember that issue being an issue. I think it's more now about the execution and the final. Yeah, I think that's another position we're starting to see guys separate themselves. We're getting a feel for the guys that we know we can trust and count on. And, they're going to be where they're supposed to be. They're going to play without the ball. They're going to make plays when we need someone to make plays. So there's no doubt we've seen separation there as among others. Jonathan, he's a winner, man. I mean, he responded right now just like I thought he would. You know, and he understands it. He's always ready when he does get reps, like he got some reps today. He's ready to take advantage of it. So, and he's done what you want an older guy to do, and he's been encouraging. He's been a perfect team player, and I know that he's ready, and we'll start to maybe adjust those reps accordingly throughout the week as we need to. But we just told him going into this week, we feel like we got a pretty good grasp on what your strengths are, what you can do. You're not out of it. You're going to get still plenty of reps. And just hang in there for the next couple of days. These two guys will get the bulk of the reps. We got to see how they respond. How do they respond one-on-ones? How do they respond when good things happen, bad things happen? When they get more reps, do they continue to get better? Do they stay the same and plateau out? Those are all things we got to see. You just can't see it if you rotate 3 or 4. It has, and Tude's a versatile guy too. He's a guy that could maybe get in the mix at other spots on the line too in the reserve role. But I do feel like we've got 3 or 4 guys that can snap the football behind Reese. Certainly Reese is kind of the leader and the anchor of that unit, so we got to be very cautious with him, and he's very important to us. But if something was to happen, we feel like we got several options, Tude being one. I think so, and that's one of our goals in every game. We want explosive plays, and that's the first scrimmage this year when we had the quarterbacks go live. We had a couple. We had a lot of explosive plays in the run game. So I think there's no question that we have athletes. We just got to make sure we get in the right spot and give them those chances to make those plays. But there's no doubt it's too hard in any league, especially the SEC, to drive 80 yards, just dinking it down the field. You got to have explosive plays if you want to score points. Now, I really can't answer that just because we have one tempo. We're going to go as fast as we can. There are times that we'll slow it down like anybody would, or check and do things. And that'll be a game plan by game plan basis. But I do know this: we want our guys to play extremely fast all the time. They know one speed. The only time they slow down is if we slow them down. That's the way it's been since I played for Coach. Yeah, and our whole philosophy is we want to make practice almost unrealistic, harder than game, faster than game. We want quarterbacks, wideouts, line. People are thinking they're having to make decisions quicker than they would in a game, and they're more tired than they ever will be in a game. And so those games and these scrimmages, I told our offense the other day, you run a scrimmage and we're going right back on the field because we're playing ourselves. Normally in a game you run 6, 8, 10 plays. You go sit on the bench while the special teams defense play for a little bit. You catch your breath. So that's our philosophy. Make it extremely hard. Sometimes it's unrealistic, but on game day it'll slow down. In the future, I don't know. Could he physically? You bet. It was one of those deals with Kyle. I think he felt comfortable at that spot. He also knew that helped our team right now. And I'm just telling you, when you have a young man step up and say, I want to win games. I'd love to be this. I'd love to. I want to win games. Put me here. I'll do whatever it takes to win. And I think his exact words to me were, I love my teammates and I love Auburn. I'm close to these guys. I'm going to be a champ. I love these guys. I'm not going anywhere. I want to win. And, shoot, he had a lot of Division I offers coming out of high school at that position. So, he's a phenomenal athlete. And I think being a quarterback will help him pick things up pretty quick, I would think.